I'm Nick Binedell, Director of the Gordon Institute of Business Science, based in Johannesburg, South Africa. It's a business school that's been in operation for the last 10 years.
Nick, you're the founder of the Gordon Institute of Business and Science. Tell us about it.
The Gordon Institute of Business Science is part of the University of Pretoria, and it was founded in January of 2000, so it's been open for 10 years now. We're celebrating that. And its idea was to help individuals and companies and organizations be more competitive in a very fast-changing world. That's what we've set out to do.
How do we foster an entrepreneurial spirit in South Africa?
South Africa has a very entrepreneurial spirit. It has produced more globally competitive companies than any country of its size.
Some of them are here: SAB Miller, Anglo American, De Beers, Investec, Old Mutual.
It has a long history of highly entrepreneurial people. Even in the UK here, there are many South African companies that are present.
And I suddenly heard they were going to announce the Employer of the Year in the UK. And because I'm a business school professor, I'm always interested in which companies, and of course up came Nando's. And it reminded me of the first time I met Robbie Brosen, who's the entrepreneur who founded Nando's. I should firstly say that Robbie does look a bit like a chicken himself. He's kind of plump and healthy and makes a fair amount of noise, and has laid a few eggs in his time. And I've always said to him, if you're the chicken, which way do you want to go, Nando's or KFC? And I think the answer is Nando's if you're the chicken, if you've got that hard choice to make.
But there's another generation coming, and traditionally it's come from one community, and we're broadening the access of people over time, that you'll find startups come from many others, even non-South Africans in South Africa.
I often say this to the MBAs: you've got two important choices that you must make. The first is your parents. It's very important you pick the right parents. And the second is where you're born. Very important you get that right.
But I think entrepreneurship's more about a state of mind. It's kind of a personal ambition, a personal hunger, a personal courage to make a difference and really pursue a dream. And South Africa encourages that, I think.
Now, I never know whether I'm blessed to have been grown up in South Africa, or whether that's kind of one of life's challenges, because we have such a challenging country. And I've come after all these years of looking back over the journey of my life to realize it's a blessing.
How do we foster a more entrepreneurial spirit, especially in communities that are disadvantaged?
I think it's the very people who do come from disadvantaged backgrounds, from less access to resources, who develop the appetites.
When I go to emerging countries and I see these great individuals, it's because they've had a tough start, that they build in the kind of resilience, the breadth of vision, the can-do attitude that makes for really making a difference.
If you go and look at the big companies in South Africa now, they all came from similar people.
And I don't just mean here the great icons of South African history, the Desmond Tutus and the Beyers Mordeers and all the other names we've come to be so familiar with.
Almost without exception, they came from people who had very little.
Many, many individuals who play leadership roles because what is working around them isn't good enough.
Who were migrants who came to South Africa, who often discriminated against.
Because they want it to be better, because they feel part of the process.
They are the ones who developed the real ambition to be globally competitive.
That is a hallmark of where we come from.
And I think we'll see another wave of that.
Because this is a country that is not normal. It is a restless, resilient, unruly, excitable, chaotic, sometimes dangerous place. It's a place full of opportunity and full of challenges. And it's not a normal country. It's just as simple as that. When you look in the mirror and you ask yourself, what's the story of being South African? It's an exceptional story by any standards. And there are many countries, I think, today that share this kind of emerging country turbulence.
It's restless, it's dynamic, good and bad, very interesting challenges that we face.
But it's just not, the typical kind of a country. And we are not just typical kind of people. We're different.
And I think the idea of people coming back who've been exposed to some best practice in the USA, in Europe, anywhere in the world, and bring back those ideas to South Africa is a very stimulating thing for the country.
We do produce champions.
You want to learn from everyone and copy no one. You've got to get the best practice and then decide what you're going to do, hopefully back in South Africa.
I've just finished some research looking at companies. There's no country of our size that has produced this many global champion companies.
And I think for people who come back, whose hearts are really there, whose heartland is South Africa, they come back with a lot of energy to make a difference.
It's an extraordinary fact of how we developed. Not all of it blessings, some of it very awkward. that there's a frontier mentality, there's a can-do idea that has caused us to produce this disproportionate number of world-class companies in this flat world. And I think that speaks to the nature of South Africa.
Well, South Africa is going through this tremendous tipping point.
Economic growth is the oxygen of democracy.
The next generation is going to determine whether it's going to run or whether it's going to stumble.
When we check ourselves in the mirror in South Africa now, the answers are beginning to change. And I think that either you like that change or you don't.
Societies make that choice.
I love the change. I relish the idea that the country I come from simply no longer exists.
I'm excited about it.
I relish the idea of new identities, of new engagements, of reaching deeply into the many cultures that now make up South Africa.
I think there is a prospect that South Africa clicks.
When I look into the mirror, I ask myself, do I belong in this? Do I want to be in this?
The question is whether we will, as individuals, as citizens, really make a difference.
And so the excitement of the next 20, 30 years in this flatter world is how we engage with each other, how we do business with each other, whether we have new ideas and answers to old questions, whether we have new answers to new questions, and the role that we as emerging country people play in shaping the landscape, from climate change to technology to social values. This is the exciting invitation in a global world.